emails and Excel, etc. And so agents are now taking this to the next step. Since 2020, when GPT-3 came out and we talked about ChatGPT, that was really a groundbreaking moment where you could have a conversation with an agent or with ChatGPT, with an LLM, as we call them, a large language model. And in return, it would give you an answer. And now agents are pushing the boundaries there. They're basically generating ideas, taking a plan, taking an action, automating workflows, and continuously improving. And so we're going from a world where, you type into ChatGPT and LLMs and get output, to suddenly a new world of agents where you might type in and it does a whole bunch of things in the back end. It might clean up your inbox. It might propagate data between systems. It might do cybersecurity. It might build images, etc. All kind of in an iterative loop, kind of improving along the way. And so I think agents are one of the most important and special things we're seeing out there. I'm excited to hear about, from some of our experts here, and I'm excited to continue this conversation with everyone. And so today, what does this mean for freelancers? For creators like you, this is really a cool moment. AI agents get you the idea faster. They help you kind of eliminate maybe the more tedious aspects so you can really apply your expertise to the work you're doing. And so if that's AI agents like we're going to hear about today that help you on Fiverr, help you with your sales process or answering questions so you have more time for your actual client work. Or, even today I was working on my own agents to help clean my personal Gmail because I have probably 3,000 unread emails and we all know that's not great. And so agents are really exciting for freelancers. Building them is awesome. Using them is incredible. And I, really compel anyone to take a look, to start using them, to start playing around with the tools we'll be talking with today. And so today's agenda, we're going to first get an overview of AI agents as a whole, the context, the tools, the applications that are out there. Next, we'll talk about client considerations and what we're seeing within Fiverr and within our clients, understanding what people are working on and what is currently trending. Third, we're going to be looking at Fiverr's personal assistant to understand how to better use things like Fiverr's AI for your own work as a seller. And then finally, we'll have Q&A. And so we're really excited to have, an excellent panel today who will be leading us through this agenda. And once again, please feel free to post your questions in the chat. Cool. So starting off, we have Elliot Johnson. He'll be joining us right now and look forward to hearing from him.
Hello, thanks for having me. Yes, I am Elliot. I'm a high-level AI consultant, and I build automation systems and AI agents for businesses and friends as well, because a lot of people, my friends, ask me. So before I get into this, I just want to set the tone. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm not here to impress you with any jargon. I'm simply here because I do this every single day, and I've learned quite a few things the hard way that I think will save you a lot of time in the future. So most of you in this room already use AI. You've used ChatGPT, you've tried Claude, maybe you haven't, and you probably played with Gemini, Google's fun and powerful tool as well. So that's all great, but there's a gap between using AI and actually putting AI to work. And that gap is where the money really lies. So what I mean by that is right now, you're probably using AI the same way most people are using it. You open up a chat, you type a prompt, you get an answer, you copy it somewhere, and then you move on. So that's fine, but that's using AI as a tool. What we're going to talk about today is something a little different. We're going to talk about AI agents, systems that don't wait for you to type a prompt, systems that have a job and know what to do. Go out and do it, and come back to you when they're done. And the reason this matters to everyone in this room is because buyers on this platform are already asking for this. They're moving from, can you use AI to do a task for me, to can you build me a system that runs on its own? That's the shift, and that's why we're here. So I think. So I want to make it as simple as possible, because I found that once people understand this one distinction, every everything else sort of falls into place. So an AI tool waits for you. You type something in, it gives you something back. So you ask GPT to write you an email, it writes the email, done. It doesn't know what to do next. It doesn't follow up. It doesn't check if the email was sent. It just sits there until you ask it again to do the next thing in the process. So an AI agent is a bit different. An agent has a goal, you give it a job, and it figures out the steps to complete that job. It can use multiple tools. It can make decisions based on conditions, and it can pull data from one place to the next, process it, send it somewhere else, and then move on to the next thing without you even having to touch it. So here's the important part. The agent doesn't need you in the loop for every step, and that's what makes it an agent. It has autonomy within boundaries that you do set. Now, I'm not saying that you hand over the keys and walk away, because I have quite a lot of agents running myself, and I like to have some human-in-the-loop checkpoints. So always have those checkpoints. But the difference between a tool and an agent is the difference between having to do every step yourself and having a system that handles the steps for you. Think of it this way. An AI tool is a calculator, and you punch in the numbers, you get a result. An AI agent is a bookkeeper. So the bookkeeper knows what needs to be done and gets on with the job. So now here's where it gets interesting for sellers on the platform. Since I've been on the platform for over a year now as a consultant, buyers are coming to Fiverr or coming to me saying, I want to use ChatGPT to write 10 blog posts. Now, I do actually remember someone asking me that. Or generate some product descriptions with AI. And I literally created multitude of them as an SEO copywriter that would spit out really great things, but still wouldn't beat them. And that was what I would call the novelty era. The buyer wanted a simple output, one task, one deliverable, done. Low price, low barrier. That is now ending, and it's shifting to what I'm seeing now and what the data is actually supporting. It's a shift into what I call the infrastructure era. This is where a buyer comes to you and says, build me a system that reads my incoming emails, scores the leads based on criteria I give you, drafts a reply, and update my CRM automatically, whether that be HubSpot, ClickUp, or Monday, just to name a few. That's not a one-off task. That's a system. That's infrastructure. And here's why this matters to your bottom line. In the novelty era, you're competing on price. Everyone can prompt ChatGPT. There's no real barrier to entry there. But in the infrastructure era, the buyer needs someone who understands how these systems connect, how data flows between the tools, and how to build something reliable. Now, that's a skill, and that's where the real money lies. The numbers back this up. So Gartner was one of the largest tech research firms, and that predicts by the end of 2026, 40% of enterprise applications will include task-specific AI agents. And Deloitte found that while most organizations are experimenting with AI agents at the moment, fewer than 1 in 4 actually have scaled them to production. And that gap between we know we need this and we actually can't build it ourselves, this is the opportunity gap, and this is where you fill it. So how do you actually build this stuff? So I'll break down the tools quite simply, and there are some categories that people confuse all the time, and the difference matters. The first category is workflow automation platforms. These are tools where you visually build a chain of steps, and when this happens, do this and do that, send it over here. That's connecting the apps together and adding logic between them. The 3 that actually matter right now are N8N, Make.com, and Zapier. I'll start with N8N because it's the one I use the most. It's my daily driver. N8N is open source, so you can self-host it, like myself, which means your data stays on your own servers. That matters for clients in healthcare, finance, or anyone who cares about data privacy, which is a lot of businesses, a lot. It has the visual builder, so you can drag and drop those nodes all across the workflow. And if you the builder can't do what you need, you can write in JavaScript or Python code, and that will also, be able to build out the flow as well. So you're not locked into what the platform actually gives you, unlike Make or Zapier, where it's pretty straightforward. The built-in AI agent builder in N8N is a bit more powerful than Make's version. They have just recently upgraded it, and I'm going to be testing it out tomorrow to see if it's actually up to par. So you can create these agents that reason through tasks, use the memory, and call other tools. And the pricing model is based on full workflow execution. So from A to Z, it will go through the whole thing and charge you for one workflow. So that keeps the cost predictable. But if you have it on a self-hosted server like myself, it doesn't cost you anything, just your server upkeep per month or per year. So Make is the visual builder. If you've never built an automation before, Make is where I tell you to start. It's pretty much drag and drop. The interface is very clean, and it handles multi-step data pipelines quite well. It sits in the middle ground between ease of use and power. It's not too much of a steep learning curve, but it gets the job done. Most people have heard of Zapier. It's the one with the most integrations. It's the fastest to get something up and running. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, and off you go. It's larger companies are using that. So if you're already using that, build in Zapier. Simple as that. So these are the platforms. These will be your bread and butter for building automations, but they're not the same thing as AI agent builders. So let me get on to that. So if you're aware of these two, yay. If you're not, listen up. So this category is about no-code AI agent builders. These are different from the automation platforms I've just mentioned. So with N8N, Make, or Zapier, you're building a workflow. Step 1 connects to step 2, connects to step 3, so on and so forth. You define the path. With an AI agent builder, like Lindy or Relevance AI, you're not building a workflow, you're actually building an agent itself. So you describe what you want the agent to do in plain English, and the platform creates an AI-powered work that figures out the steps itself. Before I get to those two, I built my own self-hosted ones, so they're like what I'm going to describe, but just a bit more on steroids because of the power you have with your own self-hosted things. So Lindy, for example, lets you create what they call AI employees. You tell it to monitor my inbox, find emails from potential clients, score them, and draft a response. Lindy builds that agent for you. It will then connect to over 6,000 applications, and it can browse the web and interact with platforms that don't have traditional integrations, which is also really helpful. The pricing starts with a free tier and then goes to $20 a month for the starter plan. Now, I've always blown past that because I'd like to use our agents excessively. So I wanted them to talk to each other. And that's where Relevance AI takes a similar approach, but focuses more on the team-based setups, which is seen to be building multiple agents that will actually work together. So one agent researches, another one drafts, another one reviews, and then you can call it a workforce. So it's really good for operational teams that handle high volume, repetitive processes, such as call centers. And if you can connect those up with voice agent systems, it becomes really powerful. Then connect them with a database and a backend, and really good. So the key thing to understand is this. If your buyer wants a defined, predictable workflow with clear steps, use an automation platform. If your buyer wants an AI that can adapt and make decisions on its own within boundaries, look at an agent builder. So sometimes you use both together, and then you're really cooking with gas. So I want to get a bit specific about what buyers are actually spending money on right now, because this is where you can position your services. Number one, revenue engines. This is the biggest category by far. So lead generation systems, automated email marketing sequences, lead scoring that pushes qualified prospects straight into a CRM. So I have my own systems that are quite large, but the more nodes, the more points you have in the system, the more chance of failure. So when you can reduce that down with more powerful nodes, it makes it just a little bit spicier for the buyers. So they want AI that actually makes them money, not just saves them time. If you can build a system that finds leads, qualifies them, and nurtures them without the buyer lifting a finger, that's a high-value service. That's not $50. That's a $5,000 project minimum. So number two is the operations orchestration. This is about connecting the tools a business already uses. So, for example, HubSpot, Google Sheets, Slack, maybe Twilio. I don't know if you know pronounce it Twilio or Twilio. Sorry for that. Right now, they're copying data between these platforms manually, and it's falling through the cracks. Buyers want someone who can actually build two-way syncs between these systems so the data flows automatically. When a deal closes in HubSpot, the teams get notified in Slack, the invoice gets created, and Google Sheet updates, all without a human doing it. Now, I've built some of these flows myself, and they really do work flawlessly. And number 3 would be a smart customer interaction. The old school FAQ chatbot is dead. Buyers want AI-powered front ends that can actually do things. Check inventory, book an appointment, handle a support question, and route it to the right person if the AI can't solve it. These aren't just chatbots, they are customer-facing agents that handle real tasks. If you can deliver any of these categories as a packaged fiverr service, you have a business. And you don't need all 3, just pick one, get good at it, and build a reputation around it. I got really good at AI consulting, just kept learning and kept building it. So a simple action plan, leave you with 3 things. These 3 things can do this and actually act on these. So pick a tool, spend hours with it. If you code or you're comfortable with technical platforms, go with N8N. Download it or use it on the cloud, set it up and build a simple workflow. Watch YouTube if you need to learn how to do it. There's so many out there. It doesn't matter what it is. Connect your email to a Google Sheet, set up a notification system, just build one thing and see how it works. Number 2, apply this framework to every opportunity that comes your way. So ask yourself, does this save time? Does it make money? Or does it enable scale? If the answer is no to all 3, don't do it. Seriously, every automation you build, every agent you set up, every service you offer should pass that test. It keeps you focused. It keeps you from wasting time on projects that sound cool but don't deliver value. I've done that a few times myself, and so learn from my mistakes. Monetize the discovery phase. People forget this a lot. This is the one that changes how you do business. When a buyer comes to you with a complex project, don't just accept a massive order up front. Sell a paid consultation first, which is what I do with all of my clients. Sell an architecture plan, map out what systems they use, what APIs connect to what, and what the logic should be, and what the limitations are. Then quote the build as a separate project. You get paid twice. The buyer gets clarity before committing, and you never start a project where the scope is unclear. And the whole thing falls apart halfway through. So the sellers who win in 2026 won't be the ones who use AI, but it will be the ones who deploy it. So that's my 15 minutes. Thank you so much for your time, everybody. And remember, sellers who win in 2026 will be the ones who use AI and the ones who actually deploy it. So now I'm going to throw it back to our host, Aaron.
Amazing. Thanks, Elliot. That was really great. I think you hit on everything that I was thinking and everything that I've gone through the past few months as well from an AI perspective. And so a few things I wanted to talk about for what we're seeing within Fiverr, right? So fortunately, in my role, I spend a lot of time, talking with buyers, talking with sellers, even looking at orders, trends, and the data as well. And so some of these things Elliot hit on, some of these are also tips and tricks for you as sellers that we wanted to talk about as well. And so for the first one is kind of the buzzword knowledge gap. And so buyers often know they want AI automation, but they don't really understand what is technically feasible. For example, something Elliot just hit on, he said, if you're more technical or you can learn to code, or maybe you understand code and you might not know even JavaScript, but you know Python, or just the basics of coding, you probably can use ChatGPT or other systems like Claude to write some of that code. But what's really, really important is understanding the groundwork of what is feasible, what APIs, and how do we build this? Because a lot of times I see clients will come to a seller and they'll say, I want you to automate A, B, and C. And the truth is sometimes A and B can be, done, but C can't be done, right? Sometimes you need to kind of think about, is there an API that I can actually integrate so this agent can do what they're asking for, right? Or is there a third-party system that we need? So, for example, I've seen a lot of, orders around LinkedIn scraping. Well, you can't just go to LinkedIn and scrape. And while there are companies out there like Apollo that do the scraping, even just having that conversation with this buyer and understanding, okay, hey, you want A, B, C, D, E to happen, right? Okay, how do we do A? Okay, sounds great. Maybe you have an API for A. Amazing. Do they have access? Do they have a subscription? Okay, maybe B, super simple. They want you to use ChatGPT. Great. There's probably no issues there. It's not very expensive. Maybe number C then is, okay, we actually can't do it at all, and we need to set that expectation. Or maybe they need a service that might cost them $200 a month, and that might be the deal breaker for them. And so what I really say is, before you say yes or no, like yes or no to any projects, I really compel all of you to really look into what exactly they want. As Elliot started, maybe start a consultation or an architecture plan. Or if you're not feeling comfortable doing that, at least before you say yes, hey, I can build this, I really say take a second back. Schedule 15 minutes with them. Understand what's possible. Say, hey, I want to do a little research. Spend 30 minutes and ensure what they're thinking is actually feasible, especially if you haven't done it before. Because what happens is buyers sometimes see, oh, I want to do A, B, C, and D. Maybe they see it on LinkedIn, and it's not always possible. And so what I recommend here is basically to take that step and do the architectural plan and come back to it later. And that really comes back to kind of what are the issues we see in orders and what kind of leads to cancellations or frustrations or negative reviews. And that comes to just saying yes from a project. And then later we see data synchronization issues. We see issues with complex mapping between platforms, or we even just see like, hey, it's not as simple as we kind of think. And then a seller goes back and tries to ask for additional time or money. And so really what I recommend is, before you say yes to something, I know it's really exciting. People message you on Fiverr. We want to be the first person to respond. But I actually find that the buyers feel more confident if you take the time and come up with a whole detailed plan of what's feasible. And I know myself, I'm sure Elliot's done it too. Sometimes we just take what the buyer has said, we put it to ChatGPT and we say, hey, tell me what's feasible. And ChatGPT is really good at telling you that everything's feasible. And from my own experience, it's really great at telling you what exists, and then you go to do it and it doesn't exist. And so if you're going to use AI, I would also validate it with other systems. Use Gemini, use Claude, have them fight against each other. Hey, ChatGPT told me this API exists. Can you make sure it exists? Can I use this API? Is it a private API? And kind of go back and forth to ensure what you're actually going to plan is feasible, testable, scalable, etc. Sorry. So that's the most important things that we wanted to just hit on here for kind of client roadblocks. Really take the time to just understand what exactly is needed from their planning perspective and just have fun learning. The other things I'll say, N8N, for example, has a great website where you can go and see thousands of templates of what other people built. It's a great place and a starting block to learn. Also a great place to see how you can maybe build something. And I think it's super exciting time, right? Like I have clients that also reach out to me and say, hey, we want to, talk about, how can we automate things? And, for example, I had someone that came to me and said, hey, there's a friend of mine, I have a trucking company. And currently, we want to automate it into the system so it goes into our CRM. Before we accept a truckload, how about if you send us a Telegram message? And we just say, yes, we want this job, or no, we don't want this job. And, I think what's really important there is, the smaller things that can come about, where we might be able to just say, all this person wants is a message on Telegram. But that could really change their business. And there's lots of examples out there of N8N. And so, we're seeing these trends throughout Fiverr. We're seeing businesses who want to automate some of their work, make it a little simpler, and they're looking for the expert. They're looking for the build partner. They're looking for the person that can scale their system and is almost like, as I was saying, like a real partner. They're not looking for someone just to go and make one workflow. They're looking for the person that they can trust for now on a consultation. They're looking for the person they can trust for bringing them into future projects, to build this, to iterate, etc. And as Elliot mentioned, it's not just, a one-time gig. So many times this turns into things that are longer term. And so I really say invest the time, understand what's feasible, play around with these things themselves, get on a call with a client, make them feel great, and really just start building. Because, the more you build, the better you'll be at these systems. I learned N8N personally from YouTube videos. And then I learned N8N from looking at those N8N tutorial websites where they have all those example workflows. So I say, try doing the same thing. And sometimes I find it's easier to go to Cloud Code and write my own custom code and put it into N8N or not use N8N. And the more you do it, the more agents you build, the more you'll be familiar and the more you'll be able to bring that expertise back to your clients. So thank you so much. We're going to switch over to Ian, who's going to show us a little bit about Fiverr's AI.
Okay, good afternoon, people. Pnawn da, as we say in Wales, and I'm presenting from a very cold and very rainy UK at the minute. My name's Ian Brearley, and I'm a top-rated, pro-verified website designer on Fiverr. Been on the platform for coming up to 10 years now, so I consider myself almost a veteran on here now. And as well as being a website designer, I'm also the owner of Smart Website Designers Limited, one of the highest rated website design agencies in Wales. Prior to that, I was the head of commercial training for the largest college in Wales, but my real passion is this. My real passion is helping and supporting people to kind of become more digitally savvy and more digitally literate. And that led me into kind of become a community leader on Fiverr. So for the last couple of years, I've been attending events, speaking exactly like this and helping new and experienced freelancers kind of become the best they can be. So Elliot and Aaron have done a really good job kind of talking about AI agents in general, but let's kind of bring it back to Fiverr now. And we'll talk about, just bear with me, we'll talk about the AI personal assistant on Fiverr. And this is an honest quote. Let me just start with this. I was genuinely uncomfortable with this tool at first because I'd worked really hard on my profile and I thought, well, I've worked so hard to build it. Will it kind of impact my reputation? Will it do any damage? And do you know what? It turns out I was actually wrong, because this is what I was worried about to start with using the AI tool, is that it wouldn't sound like me. It made me sound like a robot. It would try and sell products or offer the wrong gigs to my customers. It would frighten customers away. And I guess going back to my previous slide, it would hamper my reputation. I thought, well, actually, I love speaking to clients. I love kind of interacting with them as soon as they kind of get hold of me on Fiverr. But the impact of that was, as we all probably know, the work-life balance of a freelancer is pretty tough, isn't it? Some of us, in fact, probably all of us, end up working stupid hours every single week. But what I worked out very quickly is that the personal assistant isn't there to replace me. It's just a support tool. It's something to cover me when I'm busy, something to kind of help me when I want to go out with my family, out with my kids, socialize. And it's just there to gather info. It's there to get all of the information I need from the customer so that when I come back into the business and when I come back onto Fiverr, it then briefs me on everything that I need to know. And the reality of it is that these results kind of speak for themselves, because when I turned it on and I had those fears and I had those kind of trepidations of thinking, is it going to work? It didn't affect my response rate. If anything, it made my response rate on Fiverr a lot better, because when I'm not in the business, my personal assistant is answering for me. So my 100% response rate, even though I'm working less hours now with the personal assistant on board, is actually working in my favor, because the personal assistant kind of takes a lot of the workload away from me. I've also got a highly responsive badge, which is really important on Fiverr, because it's one of those badges that customers think, well, actually, you are going to get back straight away. My success score. Now, we all know how emotive success scores are on Fiverr. My success score has remained on 10, because I've got effective communication, because my AI assistant is an extension of me. It communicates in the way that I communicate, and the customers actually love it. Spam messages. Now, this is, again, something quite emotive for freelancers on any platform, not just Fiverr. There are spam messages that come through, and to some extent, the personal assistant supports with that. And I can show you some of that in terms of the demo I'm going to go through in a short while. But the biggest thing for me in terms of kind of the personal assistant is, as we all know, regardless of kind of what niche we're in, clients are now starting to use AI to generate their own kind of briefs for us as freelancers. So in the past, it would have been, Ian, can you build me a website? And that would have been it. Now what we're seeing is kind of complex briefs that have been generated by AI that sometimes, if we're all honest with ourselves, are pages long. What the personal assistant is able to do is disseminate all of that information and put it into kind of a brief that's easy to read and understand. So I know that I don't have to go through all of it. All I have to do is kind of read the summary that the personal assistant has created. And that's just an example there of a summary that is live from me. It's one of the summaries that came through from my personal assistant as a result of a very heavy and intense brief that came from the client. So using that personal assistant has given me these benefits. So I think what we're going to cover off now then is kind of a very brief demo of the personal assistant. Now, some people may have used it, other people may have just looked at it and thought, well, maybe I'll come back to it. I am now going to go through and walk you through a very kind of brief overview of the personal assistant. So let me just check that it can be seen. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so what I'm going to cover off is kind of the main parts for me that as a freelancer I feel are particularly important for me. Now, when I first started on Fiverr, what I was conscious of is that I didn't want to turn that personal assistant on straight away. I wanted to kind of watch it and understand how that personal assistant worked. So initially, what I did is I set up a schedule so that I could then watch how the personal assistant would function during sometimes my quieter hours, because what I was conscious of is I didn't want it to go straight in without me having any form of testing and understanding how it worked. But now the reality is that I'm so comfortable with the personal assistant that actually what it does now is it covers me on my days off, it covers me when I'm sleeping. Thankfully, it works pretty much 100% offline. So when I'm offline, it will cover in my absence. You could have it on all the time, but for me, I think as a business decision, I want to be still in part control of my business. So when I'm in front of my computer, I will go back to clients directly. But that's obviously up to you as a decision. The assistant's name was really important to me because I thought long and hard about this, and I thought, well, what am I going to call myself? I don't want to call myself Ian because it's not me. It's simply an assistant of me. So what I decided is very innovative, I know, guys, is that I just called it Ian's AI assistant because I wanted it to become blatantly clear that they were talking to something that was there to support me, not actually be me, if that makes sense. And then you've got some other parameters then on.
Yeah. For some reason, we're not seeing your screen, and before we saw the wrong screen. So do you mind just resharing the correct screen?
I'll certainly share. Bear with me then.
Thanks.
So bear with me, guys.
No problem.
And now you should see the screen. Okay, hopefully now you should see the screen, guys. So just going back over what I said then around the first part of this is that you can see the parameters of when you want it to be online, what you want to call it, and whether you want that AI assistant to actually answer all of your clients or just clients that come through from non-pro areas. You can decide what language you want to converse in, so whether that is English always, or whether you want to use any other language, you can do that. You've also got the option that it can converse in multiple languages, so it can speak in either language you want. And another feature of it is you can actually show as well at what point do you not want the AI assistant to interact. So for me, I've set it so that if it's over a certain amount of money, then it will go, well, okay, I'm going to leave Ian take care of that and then refer it straight back to me. So once you've kind of got the initial settings in place, and when you set the personal assistant up, it's kind of like a 2-minute onboarding process. It's very, very slick in terms of how you set the personal assistant up. Because what it does for the first time is it goes over all of your messages, everything that you've ever said on Fiverr, how you interact, how you act, how you communicate, how you make customers feel. And what it then does is it comes up with a number of assumptions based on what it believes you are. And when you first set up that bio, it will come up with what it believes falls into each category. But here's the really cool thing about the personal assistant. And that really cool thing is that you don't always have to agree with what the personal assistant says about you or has made an assumption about you. And this is where I've really kind of spent a lot of time on this, honing my personal assistant so that it does exactly what I want it to do. So by default, just as an example, my personal assistant started communicating in US English. So where in the UK we have S's in place of Z's and vice versa, I wanted it to sound like how I would communicate as a native English speaker. As a proud Welshman, I also introduced a little bit of Welsh because I think that certainly from a credibility point of view, you want to show where you come from, you should be proud where you come from. And I think that what was really important to me is that to have that thank you message at the end of kind of each session with the personal assistant, where it does at times just introduce some Welsh language in there. Now, when you go through it all, what you'll find is that a lot of it does make sense, but some things you may need to tweak, and particularly around the service boundaries, I found was kind of really important for me, because what I didn't want my personal assistant to do is kind of get lost in the kind of the quagmire of advising on things that it didn't really do. So I spent a lot of time kind of going through and setting out those service boundaries, because for me as a website designer, I didn't particularly want it answering questions on whether I can build a Wix website or a Weebly website or Go high level website. I'm a WordPress expert, and I am passionate that I can deliver high level WordPress websites. So actually, my service boundaries are that if someone says that I want a HTML website, for example, then my personal assistant, in a nice, friendly way, will say, well, actually, that's not Ian's area of expertise. Also, what is really cool as well is, and what I've been experimenting over the last couple of months is, as we know, again, regardless of platform, there will be people that say, Ian, I notice you're a freelancer, I notice you're top rated, pro verified, etc. Can I work with you? And I think that what's really important is that in a kind of kind and compassionate way, that the personal assistant goes, well, actually, this isn't the type of query that Ian deals with. Ian works on his own, therefore, any collaboration requests he's going to kindly politely refuse. Also as well, from a spam perspective, and again, the AI personal assistant is updated almost on a weekly basis to learn about things regarding spam, but anything that comes with just an upload, so if someone has a file that's just uploaded that it doesn't recognize or may well be spam that contains whatever, then straight away the personal assistant will then stop that conversation, refer them directly to me, and I can then decide then whether to open that file or not. So the bio is really important because that kind of sets the scene really, and it sets the scene in terms of how you want it to be, because I'm a friendly guy, I love to communicate, and what I want is an AI agent that actually is really friendly and really approachable. So it's making sure that it comes across that way. So let me take a look. Can I help you? Now, every time you make a change on the AI assistant, and I'll come to this in a minute, what you've got the option to do then is save those changes. I haven't changed anything, so there's nothing to save. But a really important feature of this AI assistant is that you can decide how sales-driven or how informative-driven it is based on the answers that it gives. So for me, I don't want it to be a salesperson. My whole strength comes from me being able to get my customers onto a Zoom call and have that conversation with them and me sell the product that I believe is the best for them. So I don't want it to start sending gigs for certain things. I don't want it to send to kind of push that customer to hit that buy now button. What I want it to be is just informative and helpful. You do, however, have the option to test it in various different ways. We'll come to the testing bit in a minute. Now, as well as the intro bio, what you've also got the option to do is look at your own specific gigs. So every gig that you've got on Fiverr, you are then able to directly influence in terms of how you want your personal assistant to function. So contextual patterns, so how you want it to be when it presents itself. And the really cool thing is the specific do's and don'ts. So what do you want it to do when someone inquires about this package? Now for me, what I've successfully used this for is to use it to upsell other products or other features that I do as part of web design, particularly around providing teaching services at the end of the gig. So as a website designer, I build a website, order completes, and then the customer goes, well, okay, I don't really know how to use it. Can you teach me how to use it going forward? And this is where the personal assistant pre-briefs the customer in advance that, do you know what? If you're a bit of a technophobe and you don't know how to update your website going forward, just be aware that this might be a game changer for you because Ian actually teaches you at the end how to do that. It also states that he cuts out the techie jargon as well. And I think Elliot kind of referred to that as one of his slides. But what I specialize in is I create great looking websites, but at the same time, I don't want people to feel overwhelmed by tech. So my personal assistant knows that actually if someone comes and says, oh, do you know what, I don't really know anything about websites, I feel a little bit kind of overwhelmed by it all, then my personal assistant reacts to that and says, do you know what, have a Zoom call with Ian because he'll take out all the tech jargon and make you understand a lot more. Now, the specific don'ts are, again, this is by service, not overall, but by service, I don't build websites outside the WordPress platform. Again, I don't do any form of collaborations. But what I found works really well as well is that if I don't do something, then the personal assistant is then able to say, well, do you want Ian to potentially find someone for you that can then support you in your needs? And the great thing about that then is we've now got a service on Fiverr where we can refer people to get kind of Fiverr credits from that. So actually, I'm using the personal assistant to my advantage to allow a customer to say, okay, I want a HTML website, for example. Personal assistant says, Ian doesn't do it, but do you want him to find one? I can then advise one using the referral technique and then gain credits for it. Now, for me, the most important part of kind of all of this then is the requirements for the custom offer. Because what I do as a freelancer is I use the Seller Plus Premium in conjunction with the personal assistant. And the beauty of the Seller Plus Premium, for those of you that use it, is that you've got the ability to have request to order on your all of your gigs, which means that my personal assistant cannot sell anything directly until I have set that custom gig up. So when we go back to one of my original slides about I just wanted to gather the information, that's all I needed to do, because all I want to do is wake up in the morning and find that I've got 6 or 7 American clients that have contacted me. This is the information that my personal assistant has given, and I then decide whether I want to proceed then with a Zoom call to kind of bring them on board. The other part of it is kind of the sign off. So what I want people to realize is that when the personal assistant kind of signs off and says, here's your custom order, it's a case of there's no hard sell in this. I pride myself on being able to convert clients by using that Zoom service. So actually, this is the perfect example of the personal assistant simply being there just to collect the data, just to understand what the customer wants and put it into kind of a setup that is easy for me to look at in a snapshot and go, yeah, I want to have a Zoom call with this person because I genuinely believe that I can help them. Now, here's the really cool thing again, and I'm saying really cool a lot, but here's the really cool thing again about the personal assistant is you have the functionality to test it. Because I think that once you've plugged everything in, you will find that you're almost thinking, oh, well, I don't really know how it's going to work because I think I've done things right, but how do I know I've done it right? Well, you can do it by using a preview service. And if I were to, for example, think about, hi there, I want a 5-page website for my consultancy business. And this is a typical inquiry that will come through on Fiverr. I am a technophobe and don't understand any of this jargon. Typical example that would come through. So what happens then is that we're going through a testing process now to understand, well, actually, is this personal assistant doing what I want? And the first thing it comes up with is, hey, look, nice one. Building a 5-page consultancy website is right up your street, especially for those who feel daunted by the tech side. It then goes into the process then of trying to extract that information that I've then asked for in a custom order. So it will go through the process of asking, have you got things like your hosting set up? Have you got your text and images in place? Have you got any other requirements or example websites that you like the look of? Because that's what I need to know when I wake up in the morning and the personal assistant has done its job. So actually, I've got everything. I have everything. I just need to speak to Ian. And what it should do then is it should start to think then about summarizing the conversation, because it allows that customer to say, yeah, I've got everything I need, even though I'm a technophobe. And what it will then do is start to connect with me and give me a breakdown of everything that I ask for. So testing is really important, because what you'll find is that when you are testing a personal assistant, it may well be that actually you may think, well, do you know what? I want it to be a bit more aggressive in terms of how it sells. You can then move from informative to helpful to balanced to persuasive, but you can do it in that testing environment. And that's the great thing, is that this learns. AI learns about you and how you interact and how you kind of converse with customers. So the really important thing for me, and what I did with this, is that I wanted to make sure that I spent as much time as I needed. I think Elliot referred to maybe N&8, for example. Spend a day on it. Spend the time on this and ask yourself, well, actually, is this going to give me a bit of a better work-life balance? Is it going to allow me to take some time back in the busy world of freelancing? So I'm just going to go back to one last slide now then. So I'm going to unshare my screen and go to my final slide. So in summary then, the AI system works great with request to order. For me, I have the reassurance that when I kind of go to sleep at night, I know that my AI assistant is just going to get all of the information. It's not going to sell anything that I don't need, or that the customer doesn't need. And I've got that quiet confidence then that when I wake up in the morning, I've got a batch of orders or batch of inquiries that have been kind of disseminated and summarized in such a way where I can look at that order and go, is that for me? test your AI personal assistant, test it, tweak it. That's the best advice I can give you, is that the more you test it, the more you update it, the more you kind of experiment with it and prompt it, the more you're going to get out of that AI assistant. And the final message that, guys, I can give you is that it's tough. It's tough going from a state where you are potentially working 18 hours, if not more, every single day. And you're thinking, well, do you know what? I find it very difficult to relinquish control. I find it very difficult to switch off because I want to be in control. Change that state, because do you know what? If you don't try it, you'll never know. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Ian. That was awesome to see how you use the personal assistant. We have a few questions now from our audience. Feel free to also submit other questions, everyone, through the chat. But I wanted to start with you, Ian, just because we were talking about the personal assistant. We have like two similar questions around how do you personalize the assistant to ensure it's not accepting jobs that you might not want to do, right? Your own boundaries are unethical, or, you know, how do you define kind of like stricter boundaries around what it accepts or doesn't accept? You mind just like taking us through that a little bit?
Yeah, so I'll go back to what I originally said just before closing, is that when you initially set up the personal assistant, it makes assumptions about you. It makes assumptions based on your previous conversations and how you've interacted. But that's not always right. You may not agree with how it makes those assumptions about you. And I think that it's about making sure that the additional prompting that you give the personal assistant, the additional information you feed it, because it's about feeding the beast. It's about feeding the beast and making sure that it does what you want it to do. And once you've done that, go through that testing period. Try and do it in almost an incremental step process where you'll make one change, you test it. You make another change, you test it. And you'll find that over a period of time, it does slowly start to kind of do what you want it to do. So my takeaway is the same as the last slide, is make sure that you don't take for granted when you initially set it up what it thinks and how it thinks you interact. Learn to challenge it, learn to prompt it, learn to test it.
Great, thanks, Elliot. So moving on to some other questions. Sorry, not Elliot. Yep, I got it. Yep, too late. But cool. Our clients asking for AI agents integrated into websites like WordPress or e-commerce. I'll take this one and then I'll give it to Elliot. I'll say that people are looking for agents everywhere. What I have found for WordPress or e-commerce is there's less around agents being built into those, though it is accelerating quickly, and more so using their APIs, right? So WordPress has APIs, Shopify has APIs, and because of that, you can basically do everything with those APIs. If that's marketing, if that's content creation, if that's inventory, kind of, equalization. There's APIs for basically all of these website platforms, Shopify and WordPress specifically. And so clients are definitely asking for agents. I find that there's some trends, if that's like the voice bots, if that's chat bots. But I do find that a lot of people are pretty unique in what they're looking for, because they're looking specifically for their business needs. And so, everyone's kind of thinking right now, how do we kind of take the work that we're doing right now and do it faster or build more agents into it? And so each business has their own kind of opportunities and needs. Some people want WordPress to Shopify. Some will want a different platform. Some will want things put into Google Sheets. Other ones will want Airtable. It's really unique for each company or each buyer. Elliot, do you have any thoughts there around just agents getting integrated into WordPress and e-commerce?
When it comes for WordPress e-commerce, I think that they want agents that actually do things. So if they check stock, book appointments, triage support, you can build a logic in N8N or an agent platform embedded via API or the widgets. If you build those websites properly, I think Ian might be able to touch on that because he does, design as well there. But for my own websites, that I got for services, I built in a voice chatbots instead, because everyone's got a chatbot on their website. But if you integrate an agent that can talk to you, like with my voice clone, it's like, hello, Elliot here, how can I help you? Or what do you need? So instead of like they're already thinking, oh, wow, I'm already talking to somebody, that's great. So it already just, top of the funnel is, I haven't seen a single website doing that yet.
Cool, thanks. I know there's another question here around when AI doesn't understand deep architecture or complex concepts, how do I guide it, correct it, or compensate for its limitations? I'll let the two of them chime in, but real fast, from my opinion, I think the most important thing to be careful for is that these agents always kind of make you feel like they're right. And so I really do like to say, hey, are you sure? Give me documentation, go try Gemini, go try Claude, compare them. And then if you find that they're recurringly doing the wrong thing, almost all of these agents have what we call markdown files, which is almost like their brain. There's Claude.md, for example, for Claude, and you can go in there and write your own rules. So, sometimes these agents are refreshing themselves every time you spin them up or create a new, instance. And so in those markdown files, you can create their own rule structure. So you can say to it, this product is using React and TypeScript and blah, blah, blah. And you can give it those exact rules that you need. And you can then also compensate there. So you can say, never do A, B, and C, or this is the wrong structure to kind of follow. And instead it will kind of go through and learn and follow that. And basically what happens is every time you enter that prompt or start that conversation, it pre-fills its knowledge with your architecture or your plan. And so for those strong, harder things, I would say definitely use those rules, definitely put that logic in, and it definitely will help kind of guide it to be more accurate or go through those complex tasks. The other thing I'll say is specifically Cloud Code, but all of these, there's a lot of really good GitHub repos of people that created markdown files. So, there's a bunch of them. If you look up like top Claude markdown files or plugins or skills or hooks, you'll see hundreds of them. And it's people that have basically just written these crazy prompts that are all about a single language or all about how to do test-driven development or all around how to integrate with whatever. And it's not that you couldn't write the same thing, but people have written it for you. So I say, take a look at some of those because they'll help you get to from, 0 to 90% by just writing, the perfect prompt. And just as a reminder, a lot of AI is prompt-based. And so what you tell it is what it kind of thinks about. And so the more you can give it that background or the more you can provide that information, the stronger and the better it's going to do. Elliot or Ian, do you have anything to add there?
I got one line. Just stop asking AI to understand the concept, break it into small instructions. You become the architect, AI becomes the builder. So the 10% that is thinking, just focus on chunking it down so it doesn't get lost in context.
Great. Thanks, Elliot. Thanks, Ian. Thank you for everyone that joined for Shift episode 4. It was wonderful.